I'm Layla. Standing in the middle of my parents' living room, surrounded by the chaos of federal agents and the stunned silence of my family, I felt a mix of shock, anger, and a strange sense of vindication. The room was filled with the hum of activity as agents collected evidence, their voices a low murmur in the background. My parents, Mark and Lisa, stood near the fireplace, their faces pale and drawn, as if the weight of the world had suddenly crashed down on them. It all started on Thanksgiving Day, a time that was supposed to be filled with warmth, family, and gratitude. I was sitting on the couch, my phone in my lap, when the email notification popped up. The subject line sent a chill down my spine. Urgent unauthorized patent rights transfer detected, federal investigation initiated. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding in my chest as I read the words over and over again. I was in my parents' cozy living room in a small town in Texas, a place filled with memories of holidays and family gatherings. My older sister, Ava, was sitting on the other couch, chatting animatedly about her latest business deal. She was a successful real estate agent, always bragging about her high-profile sales and the luxurious properties she'd helped clients buy. My brother-in-law, Ryan, nodded along, occasionally interjecting with comments about his own investment portfolio. My younger brother, Ethan, was showing off pictures from his recent trip to Europe, funded by what he claimed were his smart cryptocurrency investments. My parents beamed with pride as they listened to their children's stories of success. But I was the odd one out, the quiet one who worked in a field they couldn't understand. "Layla's still doing that tech thing, right?" My Aunt Grace had asked earlier, and no one had bothered to correct her. I'd given up trying to explain my work to them years ago. Let them think I was just another tech support worker. The truth was, I was a research engineer specializing in renewable energy systems. For the past 6 years, I'd been dedicated to developing advanced solar panel efficiency technologies. I'd spent countless hours in the lab, conducting experiments and analyzing data, working on a novel configuration of photovoltaic cells that could increase energy conversion rates by 43% while reducing manufacturing costs by 60%. It was a breakthrough in the field of renewable energy, a technology that had the potential to change the way we think about power generation. I'd filed the patent applications 2 years ago, and the approval had come through 8 months ago. 3 weeks ago, I'd received confirmation that a major energy consortium was interested in licensing the technology. The preliminary valuation was staggering, $5 million for the patent rights plus royalties. I hadn't told my family about it. Why would I? Over the years, they'd made it clear that my work was too complicated for them to understand, and therefore, not worth their time or interest. Ava sold properties that people could see and touch. Ryan managed money that people could count. Ethan talked about cryptocurrency, though I suspected his understanding was more superficial than he let on. But me? I designed solar panel configurations, wrote technical papers, and filed patents on electron flow optimization. To them, it was all boring and unmarketable. "That's nice, honey, but when are you going to do something that actually makes money?" My dad had said 3 years ago when I'd tried to explain my research at Christmas dinner. After that, I'd stopped trying to share my work with them. Now, sitting in the living room with the email in front of me, I felt a sense of disbelief turn to anger. The email stated that an unauthorized transfer of my patent rights for U.S. patent #10.847.392 had been detected. The transfer was executed on November 23, and the rights had been sold to a company called Tech Innovate Capital for $50,000. The patent, which was worth $5 million, had been sold without my authorization. I stood up slowly, my phone still in my hand, and walked over to my dad. "Dad, can I talk to you for a minute?" I asked, my voice calm but betrayed by the tremor in my hands. He waved me off without even looking at me. "In a minute, Layla. I'm in the middle of a story with Uncle Joe." "It's important," I insisted. "So is this conversation," he replied, turning back to my uncle. My mom emerged from the kitchen, drying her hands on a dish towel. "Oh, are we telling her now?" she asked, a smile on her face. My dad gestured for everyone's attention. The room fell silent as he began to speak. Layla's been working on some kind of tech thing for years, he said. Solar panels or something. Anyway, we found the paperwork in her old room when we were cleaning last month. My old room. That's where I'd left backup copies of my patent documents in a filing cabinet. Documents that included my patent numbers, my attorney's contact information, and my digital signatures on the official USPTO forms. We realized that Layla doesn't really understand business, my mom continued. She's smart, but she doesn't know how to make money from her work. So we took the initiative. We found a buyer, Tech Innovate Capital. They offered us $50,000 for the patent rights. The room erupted in congratulations. Ava clapped her hands, Ethan whistled, and Uncle Joe raised his glass. That's a great return on investment, Ryan said, nodding approvingly. I stood there, frozen, as the reality of what they'd done sank in. You sold my patent, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. My dad beamed with pride. Yes, we did. The money will be in our account by Monday. We'll transfer it to you after taxes. You'll probably get around $35,000. That's more money than you've ever had at once, isn't it? He said. When did you do this? I asked, my voice trembling with anger. We signed the papers yesterday, my mom replied. We wanted to surprise you at Thanksgiving. Aren't you excited? I looked down at my phone, at the email from the USPTO Office of Enforcement. How did you sign the papers? I asked quietly. The patent is in my name. I'm the sole inventor. I'm the only one who can legally transfer those rights. My dad waved his hand dismissively. We have power of attorney from when you were in college and we handled some banking stuff for you. It's still valid. We just used that. I felt a knot form in my stomach. That power of attorney was for a specific savings account closure. It was limited in scope and it expired in 2019, I said. My dad's tone turned defensive. Well, it was good enough for Tech Innovate Capital. They accepted it. Everything's legal. Ava leaned forward. Layla, you should be grateful. Dad and Mom did you a huge favor. $50,000 for some solar panel idea? That's incredible. Most inventors never see a dime. My mom added, they were worthless anyway. I mean, solar panels. There are already solar panels everywhere. What's so special about yours? I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself. My solar panels increase efficiency by 43% while reducing manufacturing costs by 60%. The technology represents a fundamental breakthrough in renewable energy, I said, my voice steady. Ethan laughed. Layla, come on. If it was that good, you'd be rich already. I looked at them, my eyes filled with tears of frustration. I was in negotiations with an energy consortium. The preliminary valuation was $5 million for the licensing rights, plus ongoing royalties estimated at $2 to $3 million annually. The formal offer was supposed to arrive next week. The room went silent. My dad's face turned pale. $5 million? He said, his voice barely above a whisper. Ava scoffed. That's impossible. If your patent was worth that much, someone would have told you. Someone did tell me. The consortium's attorneys. 3 weeks ago. I have the emails, I said, pulling out my phone to show them. My mom's laugh was nervous. Layla, honey, you must have misunderstood. Patents aren't worth millions of dollars. Not for normal people, not for normal inventors. I looked at her, my expression cold. But for breakthrough renewable energy technology with immediate industrial applications and verified efficiency improvements? Yes, they are. Ryan had his phone out, searching for information. His face grew paler as he read the results. U.S. Patent 10,847,392. Solar panel configuration. Filed by Dr. Layla Thompson. Approved 8 months ago, he said, looking up at me in disbelief. I nodded. I finished my PhD in electrical engineering 4 years ago. I work for a leading research institution in the field of renewable energy. I'm a senior research engineer. Aunt Grace looked at me, her eyes wide. You told us you did tech support, she said weakly. I never said that. You assumed. I stopped correcting you after a while, I replied. My dad sat down heavily, his face in his hands. $5 million, he muttered. Was worth $5 million, I corrected. Past tense. You sold it to Tech Innovate Capital for $50,000. Which means they got it for 1% of its value. That's either criminal fraud on their part, or they didn't know what they were buying, which seems unlikely given that they're a capital investment firm. Just then, my phone buzzed. Another email. ETA 12 minutes. Federal agents and USPTO enforcement officers en route. Please remain at location. I held up my phone for everyone to see. The USPTO Office of Enforcement is on their way here. Apparently, when someone tries to transfer a high-value patent using fraudulent authorization, their automated systems flag it immediately. Federal investigators get involved. My mom's voice was barely a whisper. Federal investigators? I looked at her, my eyes filled with anger. Patent fraud is a federal crime. You used an expired power of attorney to sell $5 million worth of intellectual property that belonged to me. To a capital firm that either knew they were buying stolen property or should have known given the absurdly low price. Ava stood up, her face red with anger. This is insane. Layla, we're your family. We were trying to help you. I looked at her, my expression cold. By stealing my patent and selling it for 1% of its value? You didn't ask me. You assumed I didn't understand my own work. You assumed that because you couldn't comprehend what I do, it must be worthless. So, you took it upon yourselves to help me by committing federal crimes. My dad's voice was hoarse. We can fix this. We'll call Tech Innovate Capital and cancel the sale. I shook my head. You can't cancel it. The transfer was filed with the USPTO. It's in the federal system now. Tech Innovate Capital has the rights. I don't. And the USPTO's Enforcement Division is already investigating. Ethan was frantically typing on his phone. Holy cow, Layla. There are articles about you in scientific journals. You've won awards for your research. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at him, my eyes filled with sadness. I tried. 6 years ago, I explained my research at Christmas. Dad said it sounded boring and would never make money. 3 years ago, I mentioned I was filing patents. Ava said patents were for people with real innovations, not computer stuff. Last year, I brought up the Energy Consortium's initial interest. Ryan told me I was probably being scammed because real investors don't contact people at my level. Each word felt like a knife in my heart. I watched as my family's faces changed from disbelief to recognition to shame. They'd spent years dismissing my work, treating me like an outsider. And now they'd crossed a line that I couldn't forgive. The doorbell rang, and everyone jumped. I walked calmly to the door and opened it. 4 people stood on the porch. 2 were in FBI windbreakers, and 2 were in suits with USPTO identification badges. Dr. Layla Thompson? The lead FBI agent asked. I nodded. Yes. I'm Special Agent Rodriguez, FBI Cyber and Intellectual Property Division. This is Special Agent Kim. These are investigators Smith and Johnson from the USPTO Office of Enforcement. We need to speak with you regarding the unauthorized transfer of U.S. Patent 10,847,392, he said. I stepped aside and let them in. My family sat frozen in their seats, their eyes wide with fear. Agent Rodriguez pulled out a tablet. Dr. Thompson, can you confirm that you did not authorize the transfer of your patent rights to Tech Innovate Capital? Correct. I did not authorize any transfer. I was in active negotiations with a major energy consortium for a licensing deal valued at $5 million. I would never have sold the rights, especially not for $50,000, I replied. Investigator Smith consulted her notes. The transfer documents show authorization via power of attorney signed by your parents, Mark and Lisa Thompson. I nodded. Yes. They used an expired limited power of attorney from 2017 that was specifically for closing a single savings account. It expired in 2019 and was never valid for intellectual property transfers. Agent Kim stepped forward. Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, did you transfer Dr. Thompson's patent rights to Tech Innovate Capital? My dad's voice was a croak. Yes. But we didn't know. Did you use a power of attorney to execute this transfer? Agent Kim asked. Yes, but were you aware that the power of attorney had expired? There was a long silence. Were you aware of the patent's potential value? Agent Rodriguez asked. My mom shook her head. No. We thought it was worth maybe a few $1,000s. We were trying to help. Agent Rodriguez made a note on his tablet. According to Tech Innovate Capital's filing with the USPTO, they assessed the patent's value at $4.7 million. Their internal documents, which we've subpoenaed, show they knew exactly what they were buying. My stomach dropped. They knew. They'd reached out to my parents specifically, likely after seeing the patent approval in public records and tracing it back to our family address. They offered $50,000, knowing the actual value was nearly $5 million. Investigator Johnson pulled out handcuffs. Mark and Lisa Thompson, you're under arrest for patent fraud under 35 U.S.C. Section 292, theft of intellectual property under 18 U.S.C. Section 1832, and wire fraud under 18 U.S.C. Section 1343. My mom started crying. My dad stood up, his hands shaking. Wait, please. We didn't mean to. Agent Rodriguez's voice was firm. You used fraudulent authorization to transfer $5 million in intellectual property without the owner's knowledge or consent. That's federal theft and fraud regardless of intent. Ava jumped up. You can't arrest them. They're her parents. She can just say she approves it now. Investigator Smith shook her head. It doesn't work that way. The fraud is in the execution. Using expired legal authorization to transfer high-value intellectual property. Even if Dr. Thompson forgave them personally, the federal crime still occurred. And Tech Innovate Capital's involvement means this is part of a larger investigation into systematic patent fraud schemes. My phone buzzed again. An email from my attorney. Layla, just saw the USPTO alert. The Energy Consortium has confirmed they'll maintain their offer despite the transfer complications. The federal court will void the fraudulent transfer. You'll retain all rights. But your family's involved in federal prosecution now. Call me ASAP. I looked up to see the agents reading my parents their Miranda rights. My mom was sobbing into my dad's shoulder, and my dad looked 10 years older than he had just minutes ago. Ethan's voice was small. Layla, you have to fix this. I looked at him, my eyes cold. Fix what, exactly? Tell them it was a mistake? That I gave permission? I didn't give permission. They committed federal crimes. Multiple federal crimes. Ava's voice was sharp. You're going to let them go to prison over this? I looked at her, my expression hard. I'm not sending them to prison. Their choices are sending them to prison. They chose to go through my private documents. They chose to use expired legal authorization. They chose to sell my intellectual property without asking me. They chose to commit federal crimes. Ryan had been quiet, reading something on his phone. Now he spoke. Tech Innovate Capital has been under investigation for 6 months. They target inventors with valuable patents, approach their family members with lowball offers, use any legal gray areas to execute transfers, then resell the patents at market value. They've done this 17 times. The FBI's been building a RICO case. Agent Rodriguez nodded. Your family walked into an ongoing federal investigation. Tech Innovate Capital specifically targeted Dr. Thompson's patent because of its high value and because her family address was in the public records. They counted on family members not understanding the patent's worth and not consulting the actual inventor. My dad protested weakly as Agent Kim handcuffed him. But we didn't know that. I looked at him, my voice cold. You didn't ask. You saw complex technical work you didn't understand, assumed it was worthless, and sold it without ever talking to me. That's not bad luck. That's negligence. Criminal negligence. My mom was being handcuffed too. She looked at me, her mascara running down her face. Layla, please. Baby, please don't let them do this. For a moment, just a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. These were my parents, the people who'd raised me. But then I remembered all the years of dismissal, all the times they'd made me feel like my work was worthless. Agent Rodriguez, I said clearly, I want to press full charges. I want to cooperate completely with the investigation. And I want to sue for damages, both from my parents and from Tech Innovate Capital. My mom's sob turned into a wail, and my dad's face crumpled. Ava stood up, furious. You vindictive bitch. They're your parents. I looked at her, my eyes filled with determination. And I'm their daughter. The one they stole from. The one whose 6 years of research they sold for pennies without asking. The one they assumed was too stupid.